Hey guys, Naders here. I so far have uploaded videos on movies and TV show characters that I would like to see in Multiversus. In today's episode, I will be going over some video game characters that I think should be added into Multiversus. Before we dive into the first character, I just want to make something clear. I'm not familiar with any of these characters. Only 2 of the 6. Movies are very easy to watch and get familiar with, but video games are much harder. They have complex storylines over multiple games which do cost money. I've tried my best to make this an entertaining video about some possible video game characters that could get into Multiversus. Let's first start off with the most obvious pick, Scorpion. Mortal Kombat has been a huge player in fighting games, and the fact that Multiversus has the chance of adding a character from it, it's pretty big. Warner owns Mortal Kombat, and it would fit right in. A fighting game character in a fighting game. It seems so perfect. Scorpion is the name I see thrown out the most. I also believe that I remember hearing somewhere that the clip of Ultra Instinct Shaggy grabbing Scorpion was what gave the devs the idea for Multiversus. That could be wrong though. Scorpion has so many moveset possibilities, and I'm sure that the devs would actually have some fun picking which is best for his character. For this video, I have chosen 2 moves that I think could work. On the Multiversus website, you can look at the game's roster. If you click on a character card will be brought up. I have made character cards for all of the characters of the series, and here's the one that I made for Scorpion. The 2 special moves that I chose were Spear and Swiping Kunai. Spear is such an iconic move, and it has to be one of Scorpion's moves in Multiversus. Swiping Kunai is a random move that seemed like it could be fun to me. I don't really have much more of a reason than that. I really hope that it won't be hard for the devs to get Scorpion in the game because he seems like such a perfect fit. A fighting game character with a huge following. I don't really have much more to say on Scorpion, mainly because I haven't really ever played Mortal Kombat. I've seen some videos here and there, but I do really think that Scorpion deserves to get in. The second character I chose is Maxwell from Scribblenauts. This is one of those series that I'm not familiar with at all. I've seen images of the character here and there, but have never really looked into him much. So, when planning for this character, I knew I had to reach out to one of my fellow for Multiversus accounts. Over on Twitter, Maxwell for Multiversus was super helpful in ideas for his character. He made a whole moveset for Maxwell, and I decided to use 2 of them on his character card. The 2 I chose were Notebook Lift and Word Attack. Maxwell for Multiversus explains word attack like this. Maxwell would be able to utilize a plethora of words to apply various status effects onto his opponent. He would be able to do this by pulling out his notebook and a pen as he quickly scribbles a word down, before ripping the page out and letting it float towards the opponent. I think this would be a pretty neat move and shows Maxwell's creativity as well. For Notebook Lift, Maxwell from Multiversus writes, Maxwell would hold his notebook above his head, which would suddenly grow a pair of wings for Maxwell to glide with. From what gameplay I've watched, Maxwell seems like he almost has infinite possibilities for a moveset. In the game, you can basically create anything. The Multiversus devs could take Maxwell's character however they wanted. He could basically be any character class as well. I chose to make him a bruiser, but depending on how the devs do him, he could really be any class. Huge thank you to Maxwell for Multiversus for helping me out with this video. I'll leave a link to his Twitter in the description if you'd like to go give him a follow. The third character is one that I actually really want to see. I grew up playing this game, and I actually was such a huge fan of it. That character being Lord Vortek from LEGO Dimensions. I still remember finding out about this game. I borrowed my parents' phone while riding in the car and googled LEGO E.T. To my surprise, it existed, and he was a playable character in this LEGO game. I immediately looked further into it, and for Christmas that year, I got LEGO Dimensions for the PS3. I played that game for hours and loved every single second of it. So, of course, I'd love to have the main villain of that game be playable in Multiversus. I'd actually love for him to have a little redesign where he's reimagined to not be in LEGO form. This would actually probably help his chances due to them not needing LEGO's permission. If you Google Lord Vortek, you can actually find some redesigns like this. I really like this one, but there are some other really neat ones as well. The 2 moves I chose for Vortek were Laser Shoot and Minion Spawn. Vortek is able to shoot lasers out of his eyes, and I think this could be a good move in Multiversus. Just make it different from Superman's, of course. For his second move, I think Vortek should be able to summon a portal and have a minion come out of it for a brief period of time. Maybe he could even control the portal's placement, dragging it left or right, and when placed, a minion would spawn out and start attacking the closest opponent. I also think that he could do much more with his portals. Maybe he could fire a giant gun. He's done this before in one of his boss fights. He could also swing a sword. Maybe it could even be shown that he can control the size of his limbs. He could make his hand bigger and smash it down. Vortek has some really neat potential, and I really would love to see him in Multiversus. The fourth character I chose is Agent 47 from Hitman. After doing some research, I actually sort of wish I wouldn't have included 47, not because I don't want to see his character, but because I thought he had more relation to Warner. The second Hitman game was published by Warner. That's it. I do think that could help his chances, but it probably also lessens them as well. The two moves I chose for 47 is Gun Blast and Homing Briefcase. Gun Blast is obvious, but not even a needed move. It could work, but there are so many other items that you can use as a weapon in the Hitman games that could be a moveset potential for 47. Homing Briefcase also seemed fun to me. One of the items you can use is a homing briefcase that will lock onto someone and chase them, which seems so funny. I'd love to see that happen in Multiversus. I would be happy if 47 got added, but I'm not really expecting to see him too much. I'd be curious to see if you disagree or not. Let me know down in the comments. The fifth character I chose is Ralph from Rampage. Rampage is the other game that I was familiar with before making this video, and if you can't tell, the characters that I'm familiar with I tend to talk a little more about. I remember playing Rampage on the N64 with my cousins. It's memories like these that makes me want a character from Rampage in the game, and I'm sure that others have similar experiences. All these characters mean something to someone, and I'd love to see them included. I chose Ralph for one simple reason. I wanted to choose one of the main three, George, Lizzie, and Ralph. And if Multiversus were to add a giant ape, they'd add Kong. If they were to add a giant lizard, they'd add Godzilla. But they don't really have another giant wolf. So with that reasoning, I landed on Ralph. I think that Rampage is another game that makes an implication of a character pretty easy. Ralph is centered around fighting and destroying things. I think that his basic attacks could be pulled straight from the Rampage games, simple punches and kicks. The two special moves I chose were Card Chuck and Super Howl. Super Howl is a move that can be used in Rampage that allows him to destroy all the buildings around him. I think that Ralph could howl and damage opponents in a certain radius. I also think that he could simply chuck a car. Maybe there could be a cycle of cars, each one doing different amounts of damages. Maybe there could be like a taxi, which is pretty weak, but a bus, which could do an insane amount of damage or something. The Rampage movie also has some potential moves that could be pulled. He could possibly use his spikes that he shoots. I think he could also glide like he does in the movie. Maybe if you hold up well in the air, you could glide in the direction you are facing. I think that Ralph could be a super fun addition to the roster, but it doesn't even have to be Ralph. There are so many other Rampage characters that have some pretty neat abilities that could be added. I don't know if Multiversus devs will want to try to add a Rampage character in this game, but I think it would be neat to show how diverse Warner's property is. The last character I chose sticks to my other videos where I choose an obscure character for my final choice. That character that I chose for this video was the Knight from Joust. Now, I really want you to picture Bugs Bunny fighting Batman. Now, imagine a knight riding an ostrich also joining in. It's so out there and such a wacky pick. It's like Duck Hunt in Smash. It would be such an awesome out there choice that nobody would see coming. And I think that the Knight could actually work great in Multiversus. Here's the character card that I made for him. The special moves I chose were Ride Swap and Troll Drop. First, let's go over Troll Drop. I think that the Knight should have a move where he sits down a troll trap. The troll is seen in the Joust game as a hand that comes out of the lava and drags the player down. I think that if a player walks on the trap, the troll can grab them and maybe throw them instead of dragging them down. The second move, Ride Swap, comes from the second Joust game, which, yes, a second Joust game exists. In the second game, you can swap your ostrich for a Pegasus. The Pegasus is much better at grounded combat and is much heavier than the ostrich. I think that for the Knight's down special, he can switch between the Ostrich and Pegasus. The Ostrich would be his default ride. The Ostrich would be much faster and lighter and do much better for aerial combat. The Pegasus would be much heavier, slower, and better at grounded combat. This could make the Knight a pretty hard character to master and could be a pretty good for someone who wants to put the time in to get good with them. He could also have a move where he throws an egg. If the egg hits an opponent, then it does damage to them. If it lands on the stage, however, I think that a knight should spawn out of it and start attacking the closest opponent. This is similar to Vortek's move that I mentioned earlier. I think that many people don't want the knight purely because they don't think that he has much potential. I, however, think that he would be an amazing pick and would be actually a lot of fun to play. I can't get over how fun it would be to have this cast of super iconic characters and then have a knight on an ostrich. It would be hilarious. And really, the knight isn't too far from iconic. The Joust arcade game was really successful, so the knight could be pleasing to older fans of Multiversus. I hope this makes you want to see this character added because I would absolutely love it. And that wraps up the video game characters that I would like to see in Multiversus. My picks had quite a range of popular characters and some lesser known ones. But what did you think of them? Did you agree with any of my picks? Have anything you'd like to add? Let me know down in the comments. I read all of the comments and try to respond to all of them. Next week, I will be posting what could very well be my favorite video in this whole series. This one specific character made me want to upload this series to YouTube. I will be showcasing an entire moveset for this character, giving some background on the series he is from, and explaining why I really want to see his inclusion. I also will have a very special announcement, so I ask you to stay tuned. I hope to see you all next week because I myself am really looking forward to it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next week.